distance between and and then the cake food. I don't know if you've got an Instagram. Well, yeah, that's all. And then you type in that. This will just come to the Instagram. All right.
And don't fit each one. It's really annoying. We should just kind of copy it across.
I know. I get why they do it, but okay.
Hello.
Hi everyone.
Did that work?
I don't know. It's hard. It's always that little takes you by surprise moment, isn't it? So I'm just trying to. Oh, what on earth is that? Oh, I
So,
can't find it on the phone there. So
yeah.
I'll let you chat, and I'll just try and bring it up.
Well, we've just been working with Caitlin to get in. What time is it over there? It's about
It's 5 a.m.
5 a.m.
I
5
know.
o'clock in the morning. So she's been up very early to get ready for this. So it was offered to try and do it in a time that better suited, but she was more keen to get everybody up and running. So to get the bigger audience. So we're good. Yeah, we've got people going.
Yeah, we've got people coming on. Yeah, that's all
So
good.
do you want to take over and I'll go and press my buttons just to make sure everything else is working as it should be?
Yeah. Oh, there we go. I'll just put a bottle of water there. So there we go. Hello. So first of all, before we head over to Caitlin, I just want to have a little chat about the competition that we launched this week. Where's the camera? Oh, there it's there. So wow, the entries that are coming in are just amazing. So and it's really nice to see all the different skill levels, and it's nice to see that people are liking cakes that are on all the different levels. So which is really nice, really encouraging. So just keep it going. And I've been on here and I've been saying it over and over in the last 12 hours, 48 hours, or 24 hours, should I say. People keep on posting portrait pictures, so please, you need to post a big, nice, long picture, please, big long ones. So, just to show you, a bit of paper. Okay, so if I hold that up there, that's like a sort of portrait picture. Okay, now we need them to be landscape, so the picture you post has to be there. Okay, now ideally even longer. Okay, so nice and long sideways ones, because it's got the competition is for your cake to be on the very top of our Facebook page, which is a long picture. Okay, now interestingly, some people have been posting square pictures, portrait and square pictures. And then when I went over to send a little message to ask for it to be portrait, on the top of their Facebook page is a landscape of that cake. So people I think just don't understand the concept. So landscape isn't like a picture taken outside with a beautiful landscape in the background. A landscape is just a long picture. Okay, so anyway, keep them going, keep them coming. The quality is unreal. And of course, tomorrow night is when we'll go into lockdown, and the top cakes, the top three liked cakes will then go over to my personal page for the general public to pick the winner. Okay, so we'll not be picking the winner, so it's definitely not us, it's the general public that will be picking the winner. Alright, so anyway, good luck with that. So anyway, so how exciting to have Caitlin on tonight.
Exactly.
Yes, so Caitlin and I we first met in Brisbane 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? Yep, at the cake show, the Brisbane Cake Show. It's I wrote it down because I always forget it. The ACADA cake show in Brisbane at the show. I think it's the showground, and it's an amazing show. Now, Caitlin owns a company called A Little Cake Place, but because whenever Caitlin, she's always so glamorous looking, I always think her company's called A Little Cake Palace because she looks like a little princess or a very tall princess. So I've not told her that little story yet, but anyway, so I always think she lives in a little. She makes cakes in a little palace because I always see her at the Cake Awards and she's always very glamorous. So anyway, there's a wee funny story. So shall we say hello to Caitlin?
Let's do it.
There she is. Hi, Caitlin.
I love that you've just called it a palace. We'll laugh over here about that.
Actually, I think we should call it your cave, because look at all that stock behind you. That's all your amazing new paste, isn't it?
It is, yes, and this is a little bit of a cave, but it's a creative cave. This
Yeah.
is I held all my consultations as brides, so this is where inspirational comes from in this room.
Yeah, I
It's
was
good.
very lucky to go to Caitlin's house, and was it May? Yeah, so May, after the cake show, and it's surprising how it's really warm outside, and it's got such a really nice, cool feeling in that room. So you're lucky to have that. Yeah, and it's
Yes, I'm very lucky.
and
It
so
helps with the branding.
so now Caitlin's you're quite a thing, aren't you, over there? So the big awards that you've been winning is unreal.
Yes, yes. Well, we've got a thing here in Australia called the Australian Bridal Industry Academy, and every year they host awards. They've got the state awards and then the national awards. So I've been privileged enough to win that for a number of years in a row. I just got the state for 5 years and the nationals for 3 years in a row. So it's
Wow.
pretty, yeah, pretty tough.
Congratulations. Again, you're
Yeah.
always dressed. I think every time I see you're always dressed up for these awards. So that's why I'm thinking little palace. Yeah, I think you need to change it to palace.
It doesn't actually do get dressed up, but then it's the only time I ever post. So yeah, it looks like I'm just glamorous all the time.
Brilliant. And you've got a little. Is your little doggy around? What's he called again?
Yes, Mac, he is around. We've sort of we've locked him off this area because he's ready for breakfast. It's a bit early. It is just after 5. He doesn't usually
Oh.
get breakfast till 7, but because of all the commotion, he's like trying to get in. He's like really excited. So yeah, we just sort of push him off to the side. Hopefully he'll fall asleep again soon.
Oh, bless. He's so cute. What? He's a little. Is he
Yeah.
a? Is a
Oh,
Westie? Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
He's so cute. Yeah. And it looks like you've got a helper as well tonight or this morning.
Eloise, my sister,
Hi.
only family get up at 5 a.m. for us.
You must have a good relationship.
Yeah, yeah. She's a handy little decorator herself. She's here making some of the stuff that we'll be showing later on in the tutorial today.
Wow.
But
Very
but
nice.
she's getting some things prepared for me for later, so we can save some time and chat a bit more.
Sure. So do you want to explain just like maybe a little bullet point of what you're going to be doing this morning, this afternoon or tonight?
So what we're going to be doing is I'm focusing on this design here. Now this design was I don't know if you can see that. Is that front camera all right there?
Right. Let's just see. David's just going to take it into the full thing. Here we go. Yeah, I can see it now. Yeah, good.
Yeah, perfect. So this design here was inspired by a dress that I saw. It was, I guess, a nude dress with a really like beautiful silvery lace overlay. And then just around the center of the dress, like around the waist, had this really interesting black embroidery that almost looked like coral to me. And
Mm.
then the way that the model was wearing it, she had like frilly black shoes. And so when I was designing the cake, I guess this is what I've ended up with, and I'll explain that along the way. But we'll be doing a few different techniques, including 2 different ways to do stenciling, and then embellishing with, I guess, layering on top of each other with some I guess, molded patterns
Oh yeah.
using the gum. And then we'll be creating this fabric effect at the front here and some of the ruffles at the bottom just to finish off the design. But I've decided that today we're going to do it in a blue color or a pale blue instead of the beige in the background because I wanted to see what the difference would be.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
Yeah,
So
just change it up a bit.
I just love the way your mind works. As I say, I was very lucky to go to Caitlin's house, and she was showing me the plans for some of the cakes that she's been making, and you really go into mega detail, don't you? I mean, the drawings that you create, and you must spend a lot of time on Pinterest and just searching the internet for sort of inspiration and. Yeah, I mean, you take it to the next level, don't you? That's why you've won this award for over 5 years. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I draw inspiration from everywhere and mostly from like fashion, architecture, rather than it being from other people's cake designs. Like
yeah.
I'll draw techniques from people and create my own as well. But really, when it comes down to it, I get a lot of my inspiration from
'Cause
elsewhere.
it was a
So
chandelier. Was
yeah.
that a chandelier you had? Yeah, I think it was a chandelier. You'd be looking at chandeliers, and all of a sudden you this cake, and you look at the chandelier and you think, how did your brain pick that little detail out of there? It's just amazing. Yeah, you're fantastic. Well done. So
We've
it's
got a
just,
challenging me at the moment. She wants a chandelier, but she wants something unlike anyone's ever seen before. So watch this space. The wedding's not until I think beginning of next year, but we're coming up with some really fun concepts at the moment. So we'll see
wow.
how that goes.
Yeah, you're getting a bit of a name for yourself for the chandelier cakes, but they're awesome. They're amazing. Just a little bit extra
Yeah,
challenging.
they are, but I don't know, it's rewarding, very rewarding. All
Yeah.
of it's rewarding though.
Anyway, I'll
Yeah.
stop chatting away, and we're going to hand you over. So good luck, and I'm just going to sit back and watch with a cup of tea.
Oh, lovely. Well, we've just had ours, so we're ready to go.
Fantastic. Over to you. Thanks.
Excellent. Thanks, Paul. All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming here today. So we've described a little bit about what we're going to be doing with the cake design, and I guess we'll just get started. If you've got any questions along the way, I'm sure Paul will let me know, and we can clarify anything as we're going along. Is that correct? I'm going to say yes, thumbs up.
Find out.
All right, we'll find out.
Yes, I'm
All
on.
right,
Yes, that's
so
true. That's correct.
just making sure. All right, cool. So what I'm using here is a molding fat. Now this is my own brand here, currently available in Australia. Working to get it over to the UK. We'll see how that goes. If anyone knows any distributors, let me know. Now what the molding fat is, it's essentially a vegetable fat, but it has been processed, so it takes away a lot of the greasiness from the fat itself. What I'm doing is I'm just warming it up in my hand like so. Now you might be wondering, all right, why do we need this? What are you using it for? What I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to cover the whole cake with this fat. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use a stencil over the top. This is just a damask stencil. And I'm going to place it over the top of the cake. And then we're going to use a dry luster. And that's what's going to bring out that silvery pattern that I saw in the fabric that I loved so much. Now, the reason why I'm doing it this way is because I have tried it using the luster, like your wet luster. So with your using your gosh, what am I trying to say? Rose spirit and mixing it with the alcohol. But I find that it's too runny and that the pattern can leak a little bit in behind, so you get it's a bit smudgy. Just because obviously when you're painting like that, the liquid can be so fine. As we're talking, I'm just going to start rubbing the fat over the cake because this will take a little bit of time here. We'll just do one side of the cake today. I think just you don't need to see us finish the whole sign off.
You've already done it once before.
Yeah. All right. So I just need a little bit more. So I guess back onto that. What the fat does is it has a few different properties. You can see it starts off nice and white in my hand, like so, or I might use this if you can see it. And I'm just rubbing it into the palm of my hand. I'm just trying to get rid of some of those chunks until it becomes into a nice paste. And then I can start really rubbing it all over the cake. So your hands do get a little bit greasy after this, but it works nicely. So just rubbing it over the cake like so.
It's a nice moisturizer.
It is also a really lovely moisturizer. I find that I'm washing my hands so much that they get so dry, but at least I can use this over my hands when that happens because it's edible. I've often joked of making a cream specifically for cake decorators out of this. We can have our own edible hand cream that we can use. Yeah, edible moisturizer. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? All right, so we'll just do this again a little bit more. I'm just you can see it comes out of the tub quite hard. I'm just using my finger to get it out there and pop it in, just rubbing it in like so. Now, what the fat does is it's going to help the dry luster stick to the cake, and it's also going to give it a nice even covering of the luster whilst giving us a really clear pattern as well. So hopefully we can see it. I tossed up whether or not to do it in a darker color today so you can see it really clearly because I wasn't sure how it would come up in the video. but I've decided that, the design really was all about having that as a background feature, and I just didn't want it to distract from the front stencil. So I've decided, hopefully, we'll just have to go with it, and we'll get it nice and even, and you'll be able to see it in the white and the silver. So fingers crossed. Now, you don't have to worry about the cake staying oily. The way that, as I mentioned, the fat has been processed, it takes away a lot of that oiliness. So after I've placed the stencil onto the top of the cake, in a few hours' time, this will have absorbed into the icing without changing the properties of the icing, and you're not going to have to worry about putting your fingerprints in it and if it's staying oily, because I find that can be really important as well. All right, I like to use this also if I'm doing a really dark colored cake, just because I find that it helps keep the vibrancy of the color of the fondant. Because sometimes after you cover a cake with fondant, I feel that it can become a bit dull. So it just sort of brings it to life a little bit as well. So there's a few different ways that we can use the fat. Honestly, when it was designed, this fat, it was designed for people with hot hands so that the paste or the icing wouldn't stick to them as they're decorating. And then I've worked out that it's actually great for decorative purposes as well. And as we discussed, for moisturizer too, which is quite nice. Now, I'm just going to ask my lovely sister Eloise to get me some paper towels so I can just wipe the excess off my hands, because otherwise this can be a bit greasy for the next stage. So I don't know if you can see a shine. I can certainly, I can feel.
It looks really good.
Yeah, can you see the shine on it?
Yeah, it's not overly, but I mean, I thought it would look a lot more shiny, but as you say, it's developed not to be too greasy. So, oh, there's better. David's changed the angle. I can see it now. Yep. So that's your product, Caitlin. So you sell this?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Oh,
So
David just put up a little advert for you. There we go. There, look at all those lovely. Look at that. Tres posh.
Let's push it. It's good. Yeah, no, I've actually found I've been doing a lot of demonstrations with this over the last month or so, and a lot of people didn't really know what you could use the molding fat for, and as I've been showing them and educating them, it's become a bit of a top seller, which is really exciting. So
right, you need to get it in
really
Europe. It needs to come to Europe. Hurry up.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
We're trying. Just watch this space. I find that for those who are in Europe at the moment, if you are wanting to replicate what we're doing, you can use, I don't know if you guys have Crisco or a similar item over there. You can use those sorts of vegetable fats.
Yeah.
I find with a high grade, it'll make a difference. Because that's going to help the oiliness afterwards. What I find is with those ones, because they haven't been, I guess, processed in that extra step, they can remain oily. They'll still work for the design, but you've got to be really careful when you're handling the cake, that's all.
All right. Okay.
And you might need to use a paper towel just to help rub off any excess, just like so, and that'll help get rid of some of that oiliness as well. Yeah, cool. But excellent. I guess that's why I like this so much, because it actually absorbs and you don't have that at the end.
And how much does it? Can I ask how much it costs?
Well, in Australia, it's $9.20. So I don't know what that is in pounds. It's half, so it's like £4 or so.
£4. All right, that's all right, isn't it?
So, yeah, it's not too bad. It lasts forever, absolutely. Yeah. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move on to adding the stencil. I'm going to use my assistant. Normally I would, if I'm by myself, I would actually put pins in each of the corners and attach it to the cake. But as I've got helping hands today, it's going to be a lot easier and faster to do it this way. So I'll get Eloise to assist me there. All right, so I'm just lining it up with the top of the cake here. When I'm working with stencils, I always like to design the cake, I guess, around the stencil a little bit. So the cake that I'm working here is 6-inch wide in width or diameter, and then it's 10 inches in height. The stencil itself is about 4.5 inches in height. So we're going to double it up and we're going to get about that 9 inches from the stencil. But that's perfect for our design because then we're going to put the ruffles down the bottom. So you're not going to see that gap, that 1-inch gap at the bottom. I find that a lot of stencils, like they're not necessarily made for every, height of cake and width of cake. So maybe just when you're using stencils, be a bit careful about that. So for example, if you're not going to be putting the ruffles on the bottom and you want the stencil over the whole cake, then maybe try and design it as a 9-inch cake, so then you don't have to put the ruffles at the bottom and you're not going to have that big gap. So it's always good to know what your tools are and what you're using. So what I've got here is just a pure white luster. We just have this readily available. There's so many different brands in Australia. And I've got, you can see my very official brush missing its missing its stem, but you've got your favorites, so you keep going. So I'm just putting it in there. You can see it's quite a large brush for this purpose, so there is going to be glitter going all over the room in a moment. But for a large surface like this, I do like to use a large brush because we can get over the surface a bit faster. But before I do use that, I'm just going to tap off any excess. So we don't want to have big chunks. We just want a light covering on the brush like so. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently start moving in sort of circle motions around the cake and covering it, covering that there. So I do, once I feel comfortable, I do move quite quickly. And I do go over sections a little bit at a time just to really get that luster sticking. And I can slowly, it's a bit of a hard angle in the lighting here, but I can slowly see it starting to pick up. Oh, I've got a bit of a brush bristle in there. Okay, so you just keep going like so. I'm trying to just keep it within that area of the stencil. I don't really want it dropping down to this section of the cake where possible. So you can see I'm sort of trying to get it in there as an upward motion, as opposed to trying to let that, as opposed to a downward motion. So I'm trying to encourage the luster to stick to the cake upwards. So you'll be able to see this a lot more and a lot clearer once we take off the stencil as we go along. I think that this is a really delicate pattern, and I guess a delicate way to achieve the pattern as well, because a lot of people use the royal icing on patterns like this, and it sort of sticks out 3D from, it sticks out from the cake anyway. And although that can look beautiful, this just adds that extra layer of delicacy to the design, I think.
It's also a nice way to replicate like tulle over a different colored fabric, where you get that kind of illusion of two colors.
Yeah. Well, lace, like I find that lace can be so delicate and it's hard to achieve that in an edible medium. Obviously we do have our cake lace and things like that around at the moment, but this is an extra level of delicacy. It's that illusion of delicacy, that illusion of lace. All right, so I'm just being like extra here because I'm really wanting to make sure that this luster is going to be noticeable afterwards for you guys on the camera. The other actually, this is a very old brush, so I'm losing lots of bristles here. That's all right.
Old favorites.
Yeah, old favorites, right. So I don't know if you can see, like I'm causing a bit of a mess down here on the board. Now that's why I haven't got the cake on its cake board yet. So I've got a decorated board in the same color ready to go, and later we'll put this on the board. But if I was trying to do this technique while it was on the top of the board, then we just end up with luster everywhere. So it is better to do it off the board first, and then we can attach it later. So oops, sorry, apologies. Thank you. All right, so I'll just make sure. Should have brought a turntable. We can grab that later. All right, so that's looking pretty good from what I can see. I'm just getting up close. Excellent. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get Eloise to remove these fingers, and we're just going to pull that off like so. Now, if we ignore the little bits of black from my bristles, this is actually looking pretty good. So
wow.
Hopefully it's a close. Can you see that?
Oh, that's amazing.
Can you see the pattern on there?
Yeah, it looks stunning. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see it just has a really nice shine, and it's a bit of an illusion.
Gosh.
Hopefully as the light's moving on that, you'll be able to see it.
I think I prefer that to royal icing. Wow.
Isn't it beautiful? Yeah.
I think you just instantly converted me to doing it that way.
Yeah, it's really good. I'll move it around to the front camera just in case, like from a distance, you can see it a little bit as well.
Yeah, we'll just flip it around to the front camera. If you just hold it there for a second. Yeah, yep. I think your lights are just a little bit too strong. If you hold it up a little bit, if you can hold it up, just hold it up a little bit higher maybe. Let's just see. No, it's just a bit too bright, the light. Yeah.
Good to know. So I'll keep the pattern on this other camera then.
Cool.
So that you can see it on the upwards. It is, as I mentioned, really delicate, so it does make a little bit of a difference.
Actually, Caitlin, if you could hold it up to the camera behind you, just at the side of you, just so we can see it.
Is that better?
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that you can see it there. Wow, that's stunning. Yeah. Even David looks impressed.
Well, that means something. Must be doing something good, hey?
Yeah.
So it's a really beautiful way and a delicate way of achieving the pattern. Now, what I would normally do next is I would then clean off the stencil and just let it, just give it a little bit of a wipe. But I usually use like just a Chucks or a wet one. A wet wipe, those baby wipes, for example, just to help get that excess luster off. I'm not going to worry about that today, just because obviously, it takes a bit of time and to let it dry. I will really quickly just do the bottom half here of the pattern. So what I'm trying to do is match up the pattern as best as possible, just like so. And what the best part is, like, I can actually do this straight away, so long as I'm not, sitting here with the stencil and trying to move it around, then you're not smudging the pattern. So I can just go ahead and work with it straight away. So let me just find where I had it all lined up, and then I decided to move it. Here we go.
We've got a few questions coming in. So we've got Vicky asking which brand of fondant you've used to cover the cake.
I've used Bakewell's. That's my preferred brand. I've tried a lot of different ones, but I find that's amazing for our Australian climate here, especially with our humidity, and it's really reliable. What I've actually done is I've used a white fondant, and I've added like the smallest amount of blue. It was barely, maybe like a thumbnail size, and that's what's achieved this really beautiful color.
Right.
What I've also done, just to let people know, because this is a really tall and skinny cake, to get these sharp edges and to cover the cake, what I've actually done is I've done a disc at the top first and covered that. I've let it dry, and then I've wrapped around a large piece of fondant around the outside of it. So I do have a very ugly seam over here, but we'll be covering that with the design, and you always need a back of the cake.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries at all. I'll just make sure that my head's not in the way. So the pattern is going, or the stencil is going to overlap a little bit. I've actually cut my stencil. I find that there's always big gaps at the bottom, and I like to make it really flush with the cake when I'm using it in that manner. So the stencil has about a lip of this much over the top, and that's going to go over the pattern we've already done, so that when I take this off, the pattern's going to match as much as possible. I'm not going to be too pedantic because we are going to be putting another stencil over the top, but it is nice to have it as even as you can because it does help with the continuity. Continuity. There we go. Gosh, it is pretty early in the morning.
It's really early.
It's really early. And I'm going to get that Eloise to say that again because it's gone out of my way.
Continuity.
Continuity. The continuity of the pattern and the design. So we're just going to do that again and bear with me. Just watching out for my head so it's not on the camera too much. So we'll just keep going. All right. Yep, it's all good. Head. So I do find that it is better to use a dry luster, and I say luster as opposed to a dust. The luster has a really nice shine to it, and I find that or shimmer is a good word for that. Thank you, Elise. She's going to be correcting my poor English this morning. Her mind seems to be a bit more awake than mine is this morning. So the luster I find is a lot finer than, for example, a dust. And I find dusts, because they can be a bit chalky, they sort of clump together in pieces, and I find it's harder to get that even coat around the design. So I do prefer to use lusters as opposed to dusts for this particular purpose. And it looks really great as well if you do add a bit of colour. So for example, obviously unicorns is all the trend at the moment. I've done this before on like a pale pink, and then I've had some pink luster moving into like a bit of blue, moving into purple, or you could have maybe a peach in the background to get that pink to shine out a little bit more. And it's really great for children's cakes doing it this way. You know, the girls love it. You get that nice unicorn feel about it.
Magical fairy dust.
Magical. It is magical, isn't it? We've got a nice. All right, so that is looking pretty good. I think for the purpose of the demonstration, we all understand what's going on, so we'll leave it there, and we can move on to the next side of the stenciling.
And if you're all decorators, you must be familiar with the duck and dives to try and see the cake from every angle.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, here we go. So we'll take that off. Excellent. So now we've got, let's just chuck that on the ground and worry about that later. So now we've got the pattern over the whole cake. Hopefully you can see that there, and it matches quite evenly. Sadly, you know, this old brush, my old favorite, might need to be retired because I've got little black specks all over it, but
we can't see it, so don't worry, we can't see it.
It's paining me, Paul.
The perfectionist.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let me get rid of some of this excess luster here. So again, the great thing about this is that I don't have to wait for the next step. I can actually now get stuck into the next layer and the next stencil, so I don't need to wait for that to dry. We're all good. We can just keep moving. So, obviously with yes.
Yep. So we've got some people just asking what luster you're using. What's your favourite brand of luster dust?
This one comes from a place called Caroline's. Caroline's is an Australian company. They're down in South Australia. And they sell it in like bags of like 500 grams and 1 kilograms. You can get it in smaller quantities as well, but I literally use that much. This is like a small amount of what I've got. I've actually got a tub that's like this tall. It's my favorite. It's a pure white luster. The reason why I like it so much is because it actually almost has a bit of a silvery sheen. So when I'm actually trying to achieve a silver luster on a cake, I cover my cake with a pale grey fondant, and then I use this as a wet luster and I paint it over the top, and that gives me a really delicate sort of silver colour, as opposed to trying to use a silver luster, which I feel sometimes can be a bit heavy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, we've got another question coming in. 2 seconds before David's give me a nudge. All right. Okay. So Elena is asking how can they buy the dust. So so what was the name of the company if they want to find it?
It's called Caroline's. I believe it's Caroline's Sugar Art.
Caroline's Sugar
It's
Art.
in South Australia. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
What I can do is afterwards, I believe you'll be posting this, so I can maybe put a link in the comments afterwards.
Oh, that'd be perfect. That'd be super. Thanks, Caitlin. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah, and then you can find it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries at all. Excellent. So what I'm using next is I've got one of my favorite stencils. It's from Caking It Up. It's called Eden, and you can see, hopefully, it's got a really delicate sort of leaf pattern. It's like it's blowing in the wind. With this, I wanted it to be a little bit more, rather than just everything going in one direction, I wanted it to be going in multiple directions for the original design, just to feel like it's got a little bit more movement. So I don't know if you can see here with the luster, sorry, not the luster, the stencil, everything's moving in sort of that one direction, which is nice and whimsical. But for the actual design that I've got here, and I'll just move that aside. So this was the original design. You can see that what I've done is I've only just done sections of the stencil. So I've got this section here moving in one direction, then I've repeated it and I've got it coming in there as well. Down the bottom here, it's going in the opposite direction, and then it moves again in the opposite direction from the top half of the stencil. So the reason why I've done that is, I guess it was part of the dress pattern. I wanted it to look a little bit more like coral, and I couldn't find a stencil that achieved what I was hoping for. So instead, I sort of took a stencil that was close enough, and I've amended it. So the way that I amended it was I actually put sticky tape all over this section here and all over this section here. And then I just used this middle part of the stencil and went over the cake like so. Then what I did was I placed this on the cake and we put the royal icing over it. We let it dry, and then I flipped it over, and then that's how I got it to go in those opposite directions. Today, what I'm going to do though, a little bit because of time and because it takes a bit to dry each of those sections, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the stencil in one direction on the top, and then I'm actually going to flip it around and have it going in the opposite direction on the bottom. So the whole of the top of the design will go in one direction and the whole of the bottom will go in the opposite direction. I find that it's good to think about this when you're doing your designs, because just that small touch, makes your cake look really different from other people's, even though you're using the same stencil. So I always try and look at my tools and use them in multiple ways, because I find that, well, cake decorating is not cheap. The decorations, the stencils, the tools, the equipment's not cheap. So you may as well use it as much as you can and in different ways and make it look fresh and new. And people start asking questions. How did you do that? How did you achieve it? And yeah, that's how. So what I'm going to use is, this is actually black royal icing. Again, this one's my brand. Essentially, it's a powder that you just add water to, you mix it up, and it creates a jet black royal icing. So I've already mixed some of this up in a little bit of a tub. A full bag gets you about a full tub worth, but I've only used a small amount because that's all we needed today. So you can see that that's a nice black there. Now the black is derived from blue. So it's lots and lots and lots and lots of blue pigments. With the concentration of it, it looks black. What I like about this is when I add white royal icing to the mixture, essentially what happens is you get a really beautiful navy, and then as you move down in colors, you can actually get a gorgeous Wedgwood blue as well. So I really like that, but you're not going to get gray, but I can forego that for a Wedgwood blue, absolutely, and a navy as well. All right, so once again, what I would be doing is I would be pinning the four corners of the stencil and pushing it into the cake if I was alone. But because I've got my trusty assistant, we're just going to get her hands on top of this again. So just make sure we're sort of in the center of our design there. Now, what I'm doing is I'm just trying to find where the center was, where we matched up that design, and I'm going to place the stencil over the top of it like so. As you can see, I am placing it gently. I'm not trying to rub it or move it in the sections. I'll just get you to hold that a little bit tighter up there. Perfect. We're holding it nice and tight to the cake to make sure that there's no air bubbles underneath, because that's when we're going to smudge the design a little bit. What was the other thing I was going to say about stenciling?
It'll come to you.
It'll come to me and we'll get there. We'll get there.
This is the part where I get my hands painted.
This is the part where Eloise ends up with black hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I'm using a thin palette knife, like a pointier one, because what I want to do is when I'm getting to these sections, I want to be really careful down the bottom that I'm not going over the bottom of the stencil and damaging the beautiful pattern we've got underneath. And I'm not worried about going all in one direction. I'm just putting it on as I need to achieve the pattern, like so. I always make sure the royal icing is nice and thick when I'm stenciling. The reason being is if it's too runny, it's going to run in behind your pattern, and what you will find is you'll have a nice smudged pattern. But as you can see, I'm not waiting between the original luster design underneath and doing this one. So as long as you're not moving it around and you're just gently placing it on the cake, then it's not going to matter. You don't need to wait a day or half a day. You just keep going. Sorry if my head gets in the way here. I'm trying to see what I'm doing at the same time as making sure you can see as well. Ah, look at that. Eloise is doubling up as my turntable. Thank you, madam. All right, so that's going to be enough. I'm going to try and leave Eloise's hands clean, and I'm not going to go all the way to the edge here. She's like, oh my God, this is a first.
She's only doing it for you guys.
Yeah. we always found teaching the classes that people are terrified of the stencils, but you've just got to practice, haven't you?
You do just need to practice. I find that preparation is the key. And what I mean by that is the more that you have your cake prepared, you have those perfectly straight edges with the ganache, you have perfectly straight edges with your fondant, then your stencils should be absolutely fine. A lot of people have said to me, boy, you're pretty, like it's risky demonstrating using black. And I'm like, oh, I didn't really think so. But when I was a beginner decorator, I was like, oh yeah, I was really scared of doing this. Now it just comes with experience and practice, like you said.
Yep, definitely looks good. Love that color.
Yeah. It is a great color. It's I find black is really hard to achieve, so it's really nice that I can just take it out of a packet, add water, and ta-da! Ta-da.
Good little sales bit there. I love that.
Yeah. Thanks. I was trying to do it subtly, therefore.
Oh, sorry. Have I just ruined it? Sorry. We've got another question coming in. Sorry.
So funny. No, I've got black.
So what does it say? So Joe's saying, am I allowed to say the cake beside with the roses is awesome? Oh, there you go. So your cake at the side with the roses is awesome. I think it's the picture.
This one here?
Yeah.
Is it the picture one? That one is pretty cool. That one was made for a wedding design. It was an upside down hanging cake, and it was for an Indian couple. So they loved their golds and their reds. It was just beautiful. The
Oh,
whole room was just
wow.
opulent, next level.
Lovely.
So just to describe what I've been doing there is I've just got an acetate smoother here. I use this also to when I've covered my case of fondant, just to smooth out or smooth the fondant out, and also to get rid of any like elephant skin. I find that the heat from the hand and using the acetate smoother is so good for that. But it's also doubling up, and I'm just using it because it's so bendy. It can move around the cake nicely, and that's where we can get a nice even covering of the royal icing when I'm removing the excess. And you can see that I'm trying to get it so that most of the stencils actually, you can see it. So I'm trying to scrape off as much as possible and only have a really fine coat over the top of it, of the cake. So I'm just going to get Eloise to remove the fingers from this side, and we're just going to gently pull it over, and we have a
Wow.
perfect pattern. Ta-da!
What a show off. That looks
Oh,
amazing.
I do get a little bit nervous sometimes when I'm doing it, because I'm just like, oh, okay, what if it doesn't work? What if it smudges this one time? But so far, so good, which is awesome. I can see like a few little tiny smudges here, but we're going to hide them with the next step of the design anyway. So Eloise has just gone off to wash our stencil, and we're going to do that in the opposite way, but we do need to let this dry. So I am going to pop this aside, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start layering the next part of our of the pattern. So we'll move on, and then we'll come back to this.
Cool.
All right. Now, I'm just going to pop the cake aside over here. Excellent. And I'll just wipe over my space. And I've got black hands, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to be using black gum tape next. All right. Oh, it's not right in front of you. Perfect. Okay, so what I've got here is one of my favorite molds. Again, for anyone who's interested, I know where you can get it here in Australia. I'm sure it's readily available over in the UK though. It's really popular. It literally is everywhere here in every store. I've seen lots of people use it in their cake designs, and I personally use it all the time. It's just really delicate and a little bit ornate and
I think I recognise it.
Yeah,
I recognise it from one of your previous cakes. The one with pearls. It was like a letter B in the middle. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. 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 I use every piece separately. So like what I like to do is this section here is I cut that off and I create, say 50 of them, which I know sounds tedious, but actually doesn't take that long. And then I use it as a border around the bottom of the cake.
Wow.
I use just this section here, and I really like to use that as an outside of a monogram, because it just sort of like, if I'm using this side and this side, they just sort of fit in together really nicely. What I'm going to be using today is this one here. So again, it comes into using the same tools that you've got, but thinking of them outside the box and using them in different ways to achieve your design. I think that's really what helps, make a cake unique to you as well. So what I'm using here is a now silvery black gum paste. Silvery because I've got luster all over my hands and I've just been rolling it. So I'm changing the color a little bit, but that's all right. So what I'm actually using is, this is actually my own brand of gum paste. It's a jet black, and I'm just rolling a small amount, like so. You can see it's a really minor amount. I like to use less and then add more later, as opposed to using a lot and then trying to take away. I've just got a Dresden tool here, and I'm just using the flat end of the tool as opposed to the sharper end. And I'm just going to use that to push it into the mold and manipulate it around as I need to, just like so. There's so many different ways you can do this. You can, roll the paste into it, and you can use a scalpel and sort of cut it off. Everyone's a little bit different in their technique. I find that this is the fastest way for me, and I find that this is where I can get a really nice, delicate design as well. I am using gum paste as opposed to fondant for this particular purpose. This mold is just too delicate for fondant, in my opinion. A lot of people are like, oh my God, when they see me use gum paste in this, because they're like, I've been using fondant and I have to put it in the freezer and wait for it to dry. And I'm like, oh my God, that sounds like a nightmare. Wait for it to dry. Imagine like having to do 50 of these and then having to freeze it in between every single one. Like, you guys are crazy. That's what I was thinking. You guys are crazy. No. Oh dear. Anyway, it's all just about education, really, and knowing your mediums and your tools and what's available for you. So you can see that what I've got here is just a really small amount, and I'm just like adding bits to the back of it as I feel it needs it. It's looking pretty good there though, and you can see that hasn't really taken me that long to achieve. Then I'm just going to flip my mold upside down, and I'm going to move it, and you can see it's really already starting to pop out, and it's ready to go straight away.
Wow.
Start on your next one.
Fast.
You see how fast. I know. Yeah, it's great. You got to be, if you're going to be creating, 50 of those or so for a cake. You never know what you're going to need it for.
We've just got. Sorry, Caitlin. We've got Evelyn. Evelyn's just asking what you used on the cake. So it was black royal icing. That's right. So she missed the start of the live. So it was Caitlin's own brand of black royal icing. And David's going to just bring up a little graphic so people can see where to buy it from. Let's just see if we can get a little graphic to fly up. There we go. BuyCaitlinMitchell.com. I like that graphic as well, David, with the colours. Put that one up as well. Look at that.
Yeah, there's a few different colours.
There we go.
It actually comes in 16 ready-to-use colours.
How many?
My favourite is burgundy. 16.
Wow.
Well, actually 16 plus white. So technically that's 17, right?
Wow, that's a lot.
Black is a shade of colour, they say. Well, I could argue that black is a shade. So then maybe it's 15 plus black and white. Getting technical. All right, so these are ones that we've pre-made. I just figured you didn't need to watch me sit here and make 5 or 6 of these at a time. Again, using my mold in different ways, I'm actually going to cut these off like so, and I've now put it into 2 separate pieces, and we're going to place these separately on top of the stenciling that we've got to help create that sort of 3D effect. Well, I don't know if you could call it 3D, but it just helps it rise off the cake, the pattern off the cake a little bit.
It takes it from like a 2D finish to something that feels like a bit more couture and embroidery. Yeah. So that same kind of effect you get with a real dress.
Eloise is here to help me with my English and explanations today.
It's early in the morning. I'm trying to articulate her thoughts.
You guys over there are like, what are you talking about? It's 8 p.m. It's fine. So now I've got lots of little pieces here, as you can see. So I can use them as I want to. The other thing that we've done is Eloise has rolled out little pieces of the paste here. So we've actually just popped it through a pasta machine, which is beside me. You can actually get the paste probably half that size. You can get it really, really fine if you want to. And what we've done is we've just cut out a few little bottoms. Do you want me to go through how we've done that?
Yeah, that would be good. Yes, please.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, cool. So I'm just going to steal this piece of paste that Eloise has previously been rolling out for me. I don't think you necessarily need to watch the whole thing.
No.
So I'm actually going to keep going, make that a little bit finer. I wish you guys could feel it. It feels so super silky. I can hold it up to the camera, but I wish you know it's very pliable. You can see it's moving quite easily, and it's nice and fine.
And what are you using to roll it out?
I've
Are you
been
just putting a little bit of your fat down to roll it out, Caitlin?
No, I haven't used anything. I haven't
Nothing
used
at all.
anything.
Wow.
No, it depends on the weather. Sometimes if it does get a little bit sticky and humid, I'll use the fat, especially for dark colors like this. You can use like this is just a baby sock with some corn flour in it.
Oh yeah.
But I don't use that for black colors because what happens is once you put it down, you get like that sort of residue on it, and it's really hard to get it off.
Yeah.
With paler colors though, it's absolutely fine. You don't need to worry about it. So
Sweet.
for dark colors, that's when I use molding fat to stop it from sticking.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now we've got someone. I think Evelyn from America is just asking, will you deliver to America your products?
Yeah, I can certainly organise that. No worries at all.
Cool. Excellent.
So what we've got here is I've just got a little bit of a plunger cutter. It's a really small blossom. They usually come in sets of 3. What I'm doing is I'm just popping it into the piece like so, just giving it a little bit of a wiggle. When I take it out, I do like to just go over the edges with my thumb just to get rid of any little flyaways or hairy legs. Everyone calls them something different. And then I'm just popping it out like so. So that's just how you create your blossoms there. Now, I'll show you why we're going to be creating blossoms in a moment. I'm just going to check the stencil because I'll just see if that's, yeah. So we might be able to move back to the stencil in a moment.
All right.
So we can start layering the pattern again. What I'm actually going to do before I do that though, is I've got my little blossoms on this mat. I'll just move those out. Like so. I've just got a little balling tool. This is actually quite a really firm pad here. I find that you need to have it quite firm because if it's too soft, then you can't get the delicacy of the edges. And you also can't then do this, where I'm just popping up. Okay.
Wow.
I'm just popping the balling tool in the center, and straight away they're already sort of, you can see that they're lifted off a little bit.
Yeah, brings it to life.
Yeah, it does bring it to life. It's so small, such a small detail, but the reason I like this pad is because then I don't have to go get a former, like a flower former, and then put them in there and wait for them to, form shape. This is just, it's automatically done that for me, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
The more things that you can set, then the better, in my opinion. Okay, so we're going to bring the cake back now, and we're going to do our next layer of stenciling.
I'd just like to say that we've got a lot of Australians waking up just now. So we've got Tony's on, we've got Greg Cleary's just popped on, Shane Donnelly. So yeah, we've got lots of the.
Hello, everyone from Australia. Thanks for joining. You can do it right. G'day. G'day, mate. All right, so what I'm doing now is I've got the stencil, and I'm just going to put it underneath the pattern that we've got. I might actually move it across a little bit so it's not directly underneath. So that what I'm now doing is I've got this big long section. I've just moved it across, and we're doing it in the opposite angle as well, as I was discussing earlier. So that's going to create a little bit more of our, I guess it's just going to create a little bit more interest in the design, the best way to do it. And I'm just making sure that it's lining up nicely here as well. So just coming back with the black royal icing, we're just going to place it on like so. As I mentioned, I'm just trying to place it on however I can. I'm not worried about it all going in one direction. I want to make sure that I achieve the pattern without getting any excess royal icing up here to ruin this side. And for anyone who is jumping on, we're doing this pretty much straight away from the pattern that's underneath. But we have needed to let this part of the royal icing dry before we could do this bottom section. So, all right, now we'll just move this around. Just get this side open. God, people are up at 6 a.m. in Australia. That's like pretty early. I don't usually get out of bed till like, granted, I do work until like 2 or 1 a.m. a lot of the time here in Australia. I seem to have accumulated, I don't know, over the years of cake decorating, I've become a night owl. Seems to be when I decorate the best in the evening. I decided to stop fighting it and I allow myself to sleep in because I get up late. I stay up late. Go with it. All right, so I've just got my acetate smoother again, and I'm just scraping off the excess like so. I'll just.
And normally between this process, when Kate and I work together, the acetate smoother and the palette knife would also be clean, so we just keep everything nice and neat, especially working with the royal icing.
Yeah, which is why I used the opposite side as opposed to the side that was dirty. It does help. It does make a difference. Okay. All right, so I'll just get a little bit more off this side and then we can move on. All right.
Sorry, just to butt in. It seems like your camera one, your front camera seems to have flipped on its side, so we're getting a side angle strangely from your camera one. But you're holding on to that. If you hold on to the stencil just now, don't worry. But if you can fix it after that.
Yeah, I'll just take the stencil off quickly. Excellent. There we go.
Ta-da!
Ta-da, indeed. So we've got a few smudged bits here, but we're going to hide that with the design. But you can see that it's really coming together now. Can you see the pattern underneath as well? Like, and how great it looks when it's layered?
It looks fantastic. Yeah, well done.
Yeah, I'm just moving it to help the light sort of shine with that pattern underneath.
It just gives it a sort of like almost like a depth of field feel about it. It's really good.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Absolutely. So this in itself is really, really beautiful. But we've just created these little embellishments that we're going to put on top, which is going to create that layered effect, and it's really going to finish off the design a little bit more. How is that camera going?
Let's just see, David, is that back to normal?
No.
Nope, it still seems to be sideways for some weird reason. You must have a ghost in the house.
Okay, so we believe the phone has overheated.
Oh, you've been talking too much.
Are you still getting footage?
Yeah, we're still getting the footage. Are we still getting the footage, David?
No.
No, it's frozen. It has frozen.
Yeah. Here, Caitlin, here's a suggestion. If we put on a quick 1-minute advert, I can send you some new access codes to reactivate camera one. How does that sound?
Okay.
Okay, we're going to commercial advert.
Just go for a quick break.
All right.
Hi guys, today I'm going to show you this beautiful rainbow buttercream cake. So as you can see, I'm going to take you through all the different stages, from baking the 7 different colours of sponge cake, making Swiss meringue buttercream, and of course how to get this lovely sharp finish and all the magical finishing touches. So come on, let's get started. Hi guys, so while David and Caitlin get the camera sorted, I've just popped back on to say hello. So I feel like I should have a bit of sugar paste in front of me, so I can just put my fingers and make something, but it's not going to happen. And it's just after 10 o'clock at night, so it's been a long day. So today, just because I don't know what else to talk about really, we're filming a new cake recipe. I suppose we can just talk about it today, yeah, we can talk about it, yeah. So I've designed a new one, and it's a white chocolate mud cake, Australian style, and a red velvet cake as well, with a few bit extra ingredients chucked in, and it's like a sort of marble cake. So so that's what we're filming today, and that's going to be part of a new Halloween cake that we're working on tomorrow. So and I've not been on chocolate for 5 weeks now, and I really struggled not to have a little piece tonight, because this afternoon it smelled like toffee apple. It's very strange. The combination of white chocolate cake and red velvet with little extra bits added in was like sticky toffee apple. Lovely. So how are we getting on, David?
Just wait.
Keep going. Keep going.
Here we go. Yeah. In fact, we've got another bite size. We can put that.
Oh, we're going to put a little bite size on. There we go. That was a fast one. Nice little sunflower. So are we good to go, Mr. Bryce?
I think we are.
Oh, I think we've done a few more. They're just tweaking the camera just a little bit more. So I'm just looking at the dashboard here, and oh, here we go. Oh, you're live, guys. We can see you.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Just need the sound off on that one. Cool. Sorry, we can hear ourselves through both
Right, okay.
the cameras.
You're getting the feedback. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, we're all good to go now. Excellent.
Fantastic. Woohoo!
Okay. Thanks for that little break, guys. We're back. The music, yeah. I didn't get to see what was playing, but it sounded good. So what I've just got here is I've just got a little jar of water. I find that when the paste is fresh like this and we've just made these, you don't need to use anything more. You can just attach a little bit of water at the back of the pattern. And what I'm just doing is I'm just going to choose sections. So if I've got a section here that's a little bit, I guess, smudged, I'm actually going to put this over the top like so, and just place it over the top of the stencil pattern that we've got there. And ta-da! Happy accident. It's like it never even happened. So I'm just getting each little individual piece. Now, I don't really have a pattern for what I'm doing here. I just want to keep them separate enough to, I guess, make it, oh, I've just ripped that one apart. I just want to keep them separate enough that they are, I don't know, like so that they don't look so close together, but close enough together that it looks like a nice pattern. And I also want to, when I'm placing them on the cake, what I'm trying to do is I want to have these bits here that have the nice flower attached to it sort of on the opposite side. So I'll do one that's facing down, one that's going up, one that's facing down, one that's going up, just to help, I guess, with so it doesn't look so like uniform is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't look uniform. Okay, so you can see that that's sort of like rising the pattern a little bit. And then I've got these lovely little blossoms that we've got here. Now the pattern that I find, the stencil has lots of like little white gaps. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use those blossoms to fill in that white gap. So there's not too much white space in any area. So we've just got just enough decorations there. I find that when you're decorating, it's a really fine balance between your blank spaces and your patterns, and you can go overboard, and you also can have too little, I find. So you can have too much white space, but you can also have too much decoration. So fine balance between it. You see how that's just lifting the pattern off? Like it's just, I guess, really bringing the design together. It looks pretty before, but now it's looking really, really pretty. Nice and fine. How are we going for time as well, Paul?
Yeah, we're all good here. This side, yeah, it's that's has been so it's an hour and 10 minutes so far.
All right.
So you've got 10 minutes.
We've got 10 minutes left. Okay, cool, perfect. That's all right. What we'll do is we'll do the ruffles next quickly, and I'll just show you. Oops, I'll just get a little bit more water to help that.
I was kidding with the 10 minutes. You've got 12.
Oh, were you? I can make it work. I can make it work. I don't know if you can hear. We got the garbage trucks going outside. It is 6 a.m. in the morning here in Australia, so they're they're waking everybody up.
I think we all want to say a big massive thanks for doing this, for getting up so early in the morning. What time did you guys actually get up?
It was 10 to 4.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
No, honestly, only for you, Paul.
Oh, that's so sweet. And are you going back to bed after this?
Probably not. I'm really wide awake, so I'm actually celebrating my 3-year anniversary with my boyfriend today.
Oh.
So I'll probably go and see him.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. It's pretty exciting. We're happy.
Oh.
All right, so what we've got here, you can see that now we've added those pieces. That's enough. So I've really only added like 4 to 6 sections of the pieces that we made a bit earlier, and there's only like 4 blossoms in there, so you really don't need too much, but it just lifts off that pattern a little bit more and just makes it look a little bit more embellished, I think.
Yeah, no, it looks really, really good. Now, we've got a few guys just asking, you've already mentioned this, but if you could just pop on, if you just send us the links, Caitlin, for where you got your lovely stencil from, and maybe the cutters as well, if that was possible.
Absolutely, I can. Absolutely.
Brilliant.
So I'm going to start on the next section, which is our ruffles that we'll put around the bottom. Eloise has already made some circles for me, which we've already rolled out a piece of the gum paste earlier. And then I'm just using a circle from a circle cutter set. So I've just chosen a small one. It's probably about 1.5 inches in width that I'm using. I didn't want it to be too big. I wanted it to be a delicate size. And what I just do is I just pop it into the paste, twist it a little bit like so, and then we've got our circles sort of ready to go. So we've got a number here. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get Eloise to attach our cake to the board off to the side, so that we can attach. Sorry, I just moved that camera too. I hope that's a good angle. Is it still?
No, it's all good. Still good.
Okay, so that's the royal. Sorry, yes, you needed time. Cool, excellent. So I'll do the top one up. We can see that. So, okay. Let's put that off to the side here. All right, so now that I've created my circles, let me just grab these and get this out of the way. So now that I've created my circles, you can see that we've ruffled them. So Eloise is, she's been creating some of these for me already. So just to ruffle them, I'm just using that same foam pad with a balling tool and just going around the outside like so. I want them to be I guess, slightly frilly. You don't want to go overboard because they're already going to look ruffly. So you don't want them to be super tight ruffles. I mean, maybe you do. Maybe that's what you want for your design. Everyone's a bit different in what they're hoping to achieve. What I find this does also is that it just gets rid of that cut edge. So it makes it look a little bit finer on the edge as well, as opposed to being that sort of straight cut. So excellent. You can, all right.
I tend to find when we're doing things like this for wedding cakes, it's a good time to watch Netflix or Amazon Prime or.
Isn't it? Honestly, I've been through like pretty much every single series on Netflix. Just one video after another, just sitting. This is the technique that I use if I'm going to do like this type of ruffle over an entire tier. Usually I use a slightly bigger circle cutter, but yeah, it can take hours and just, yeah, episode after episode after episode. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually use sugar glue this time. So there's a few different brands out there. This one is mine. And the reason why I'm using the sugar glue is just I find that you need something a little bit more sturdy to attach our ruffles to the cake. So I'm just actually going to attach that sugar glue to the cake as opposed to the ruffles. I'm just going to go all the way around that base there, like so. Now to achieve the ruffles, I've got my circle. What I do is I fold it in half, and then I fold it in half again. So you've essentially folded into a quarter. I give the back side a little pinch just to help it stay there. Then I put my fingers into the two little, I guess, so the pockets that we've created. And then I literally just push that onto the cake like so. Now, what I find is with this, when you're placing them onto the cake, you don't want to have them all in the same direction because then, again, they look too uniform. The best thing about ruffles is that you want them to be a little bit, I guess, going in different directions. So I'm just placing it on like so in a different angle. So my two pockets are always facing a different way when I put it on. And that's what helps create that ruffled effect.
That's
as
so
you're
nice.
Putting it together.
Yeah, it's lovely. Very fast as well once you get started.
Well, once you get started, if you've got all of these prepared in advance, you can cover a cake really quickly. It's just a simple, like this is actually my favorite part because it's almost like you're finishing it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can see that there, and it's coming along quite nicely.
Yeah, we can just make it out.
I probably would have used a slightly larger circle in hindsight, but this is working.
So if anyone's just tuning in just now, this live will be hosted on Catch Up on the Cateflix TV channel, and also we'll repost it on Facebook as well. Yeah.
So yeah, what I'm just doing now is I'm actually just doing a double layer just to make it look a little bit more frilly down the bottom there as well. Because I find that now, because I've used the circle cutter that's a little bit smaller than what I wanted to give it that bulk, now I can just layer it instead and place it on top like so. And like you said, I can move like fairly quickly as I go along and place it. Oops, that one might need a little bit more glue behind it. So I think you get the idea there. I won't go around the whole cake.
Yeah.
I just sort of wanted to show you how to achieve that. And the very last thing we're going to do is just that really lovely fabric effect on the top of the cake there. So I'll just place these last ones and then we can move on to that. Just to help that one a little bit more. And I'll place one more on each of the sides. So yeah, and then that also helps like hide the pattern. So that the cutoff of the stencil down the bottom. The one thing that I do find when I'm doing this is my nails are like getting slightly too long for this. So it is good to have short nails, because otherwise you're going to leave nail marks in when you're pushing it into the cake. So just be aware of that as well when you're doing it. But you can see that that ruffle effect is coming together really nicely on the bottom there.
Yeah,
and
it
you
was
get
really
the
sweet.
idea of how it would look if it was layered, like in the whole tier was ruffled as well. It's looking quite nice.
Fantastic. Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
So I'm going to pop that off to the side like so. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do a fabric effect on the top. Have we got the, here we go. No. All right, so what I've, Eloise has already previously rolled out a piece. Oh, it's got little blossoms stuck to it. This is quite thick. It's a little bit too thick for my liking. So we're going to put it through the pasta machine. But this is sort of the size that we're looking at in terms of thickness, like the width here. So let's just pop it through the pasta machine. I'll just get it a little bit thinner. Our pasta machine broke like literally 2 days ago. I haven't had a chance to get a new one, so I have to do more rolling out now because I can't go down the notches. I can only go from like, I can only go to the smallest. So hopefully this will work. All right. Let's do this.
You got it?
Yeah, let's go. Oh, it's a push. It's a push.
You can do it.
All right.
It's a boy!
Yay!
We got there. All right, so now I've got a really nice long piece of gum paste here. I'm not worried about these rough edges. I'm not worried about this shape at all. And I'm certainly not worried about, you know, this section being smaller. I'm just going to use this exactly as it is. When I first learned this technique, you know, we've measured everything out perfectly. I've since found it's not much point because you can't see those raw edges anyway. So you just go with it. And again, you're saving time, which is really nice. Now, you can use a really long piece. I guess the longer the piece, the longer the ruffle and the flower is going to be. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut it in half and do a few sections, just because I find that it goes together a little bit nicer on the cake itself. I've got another top here. All right, so I'm actually just going to roll this out a little bit finer than the pasta machine can achieve. Let's get it a little bit longer as well. Right. So what I'm going to do now, that I'm happy with that. Look, so that's how much extra I can roll it out after I've used the pasta machine. It makes a huge difference. Just keep going. All right. I'm going to fold this in half, like so. Now, I'm not going to put any water in behind there at all, because if I do, then it sticks together a little bit too much. I will, however, put a bit of water just at the bottom here, like so. And that's just going to help stick our ruffles together as we need it. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a rose sort of shape. I'm going to fold that edge over like so. And then what I'm going to do, that sort of creates like our centerpiece, gets rid of that raw edge. And then I'm going to sort of gather it and pull it back on itself whilst moving it around that centerpiece to create our fabric sort of effect and our fabric flower here. This is what I like to call, I guess, a fabric rose, and you just keep moving it around until you're happy.
Could you hold it just a little bit closer to the camera? Just a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
You can see how I'm gathering that?
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Thanks.
And it's just coming along like this. And then right at the end, I just fold that over and tuck it in underneath. So you've got a bit of a fabric flower there. It's got a bunch of excess at the back, but I just rip that off. And then I can place that on top of my cake as I need. So with this next one, I'll just roll this out a little bit more. I'm gonna sneeze. No. Ah, I'm so sorry. I couldn't hold it in. All right. Okay. So we've got our first, this is going to be the center of our fabric, like our flowing fabric coming down the cake. And then what I'm going to do is start again. Just put a little bit of water down the bottom here. The smaller the width, the finer the, I guess, the design at the end of the day. I'm just going to cut off this section here. So if I make this, you know, half this size, then it's going to be a lot more delicate. So it's going to be a lot smaller, whereas this is quite a large piece. And then we're just going to start. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring the cake over before I do this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my flower on the top, just like so. I haven't attached it at this stage with anything. Generally, because this has got a little bit more weight to it, I do like to attach it with the royal icing as opposed to the sugar glue or the water. And what I've got also are toothpicks, just here. And this is what we're going to use to help attach the, or just keep it into place as it's drying. We'll keep the fabric in place. So I'm just going to get a little bit, normally I would have this in a piping bag, but I did not prepare a piping bag today. Have we got a palette knife? It's on the floor. Palette knife is on the floor. So I'm just going to be very delicate with where I'm placing, just using small amounts at a time. And what I would do is then I would put more of these tucked in behind so that you can't see the raw edge at the back. And what I can do today as well is I sort of am going to see how I might, you know, have that draping down the cake. So it's sort of like a work in progress as you go. So I'm going to have it sort of coming down this way. So just pop a little bit of the royal along that edge there. You can use the sugar glue if you want to. Because I suppose what the sugar glue means is that you're not going to have, like if you decide not to put the frill there, then you're not going to have a big black splodge. Whereas now I'm forced to put the frill there. So I'm just gonna, so this is literally just playing at this stage. I don't really have any idea in mind. I'm just going to place it on as I feel it comes together. So I'm just going to push that in behind like so. And I'm just going to gather it and ruffle it back on itself. Just like so. I can move the flower across a little bit more to help that tuck in. And just gathering it back on itself. And creating that ruff coming down the cake.
That's sweet. I love it. It's a little bit of freestyling. I think it's quite. I like freestyling on cakes. It looks good.
It is. It is definitely freestyling. Absolutely. And like you can see this raw edge along here. That's okay, because then what I'll do is I'll get another piece and I'll tuck it in there, and then I'll tuck it in either side, and then I essentially like keep going until you can't see any raw edges without going overboard, if that makes any sense. So you don't want to have, like, it doesn't want to be super chunky and going down. So now what I'll do is I'll add some more pieces along here, but I'll make them more delicate, so I won't make them as large as this one, so then it can just tuck in. And you might finish off with like a little bud or a little, you know, like a smaller version of this just tucked in underneath as well.
Oh yeah, so almost
like
yeah, like almost tapering to a point. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I find that you do need to have like the original design, as you'll be able to see.
Wow.
So you can see, like, I literally just, like, this is, like you said, it's freestyling. I've just placed it around as I felt it looked good. And then I've sort of just brought it down, and I've got that little point there at the bottom. I mean, if you can see, if I kept going down, then it'd be overkill. It'd be too much.
Yeah.
So I've just tucked in pieces as I've needed to. And you can see that I've gone from quite large, wide pieces here to really small pieces down here, just to help tuck that in there.
Such a nice technique.
Did you want me to?
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It is. It's something a bit different as well, and it really does look like fabric, in my opinion. It's like literally like gathered fabric on a cake, which I really.
No, it's beautiful. Really, really nice. Well done.
Yeah.
So are you going to finish it, or are we getting the gist, or what do you think?
I've done all the techniques, so I can keep going if you want to keep watching. It'll be repeating what I've done and pushing it in. It's what would you like? I'm here.
I think we get the idea. So maybe what would be quite nice is we open up some questions and see if anyone wants to ask any questions, and a little Q&A at the end. Does that sound good?
Yeah. I mean, I can keep working while we're doing the Q&A if you'd like.
That sounds good. Yeah, you keep working. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
So does anyone have any questions for Caitlin? So if anyone's just joining us, so Caitlin, she's been a very delicate salesperson. She doesn't want to oversell, but she's got this amazing products that is going to flash up on the screen just now, and she has her own royal icing colours. She has her flour paste. She has her own vegetable fat that just looks incredible. I can't wait to try that stuff. And even her own glue. Is there? Have I missed anything out?
Nope, that's the suite of products that we've got. I've got.
And so how long have you been making your own, sort of selling your own products now? Is that about when did you start?
Since March. The product's actually been on the market for many years, but I'm actually really good friends with the people who created the original recipe. I've actually been using it since I started decorating in 2011, and I have tried a lot of other brands, but I kept coming back to this one. It does everything that I need. It doesn't dry too fast. It's sort of just the right amount of time, so it gives me a lot of play time. And when I heard that the people who owned it, they were needing to sell it because of health reasons, I was like, well, I want this product. I love this product so much that I just, I feel like I've got youth on my side. My personality to help, I guess, push it out there and let everybody know how great it is.
It feels like
all I can do.
Yeah, well, it feels like a kind of organic progress from you're having the business, now you're out there teaching, so you should have your own products. So it's and the branding looks really nice. So did you do some rebranding, I take it?
We did, yeah, because I ended up only buying half the business. She also had some buttercream and fondant. It was previously under the name of Menina flour paste, and I've called it a gum paste because it does, as you can see, a lot more than flowers. I actually, don't use it on flowers as much as I do on designs like this. Because she was retaining the brand name, I had to rebrand it, and I already sort of had my By Caitlin Mitchell logo there for classes, so I just decided to go with it and keep it on there. But you can congratulate my lovely sister Eloise here, who has done all of the graphics for me. She's an absolute whiz. So all of the labels, they're all Eloise.
Well done, Eloise.
Yeah. I know.
Yay!
I can hear it.
Now, if there's anyone watching from Europe, which I think we've got quite a lot of people watching from Europe, if anyone would like to get in touch, because you'd like to bring the product over to Europe, wouldn't you? So you're looking for some suppliers to, yeah. So So if anyone wants to get in touch, then Caitlin's her contact details are coming up on the screen right now. There we go. So fingers crossed we can see it in Europe, because it looks like a great product.
There's quite a few people out there, like I guess internationals. I call you guys international. You're international to me anyway. Who come over to Australia and used it. I won't name drop just because I don't know. I feel it's a bit rude. But there's been quite a number of people from the UK who come over and they absolutely love it. And yeah, it's pretty exciting to hear. Same with the number of people from like New Zealand and America as well who are interested. So we'll see where I can take it. We'll see.
Yep, oh, exciting times. So we've got Tammy's just said, I've never really used royal icing for stenciling. Is the key thing to keep it thin after scraping it off so that it dries quickly? I always worry that I overlap the stencil and ruin the design on the cake. So yeah, so if you watch back Caitlin's tutorial, you'll see you put it on pretty thin, didn't you? It wasn't too thick.
I have to say I did for this design. I find that I do like to keep the royal icing as thin as possible where I can. However, if I am doing white royal icing on top of a dark color, so for example, a black, a navy, a burgundy, or even, like your blues, I do need to put it on slightly thicker for that, because otherwise then it's too thin.
Comes through.
And you can see the color. Which can be nice if that's what you're wanting to achieve for a bit of like that more sort of natural, sort of rustic sort of feel, as opposed to it being absolutely perfect. But then your whole design has to emulate that. If your whole design is absolutely perfect and then you've got this one tier that's not, that's a little bit rustic, that's not going to work. No. So yeah, you just need to think about your design. But I do generally try to make it as fine as possible. The real trick is having a thick piece of, a thick royal icing mixture. That's the real trick. So it's
sort of stiff peak. Then. Yeah, stiff peak royal icing.
Yeah, you really need to have that stiff peak. That's the trick, in my opinion.
Excellent.
And then you can do anything.
Good question, Tammy.
Question.
Yeah, good question. Exactly. So Dina's just saying, is it available in the UK? So not yet. It's not available in the UK, but hopefully, fingers crossed, soon. But nice to have it for Christmas, wouldn't it?
That would be nice. It would be a Christmas present for all of us.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be lovely? That would be lovely.
So have you got any cake shows coming up? Were you at the cake show at the weekend?
Yes, there was one here on the weekend. It was a small one for our, I believe you guys have your cake associations over there. So we had it was for our cake association over here. There's a few coming up. There's the Cake Bake and Sweets show that's coming up in Sydney and Melbourne later in the year. Yeah, so there's a few. I'm hoping to attend those. Yeah, in discussion at the moment. We'll see how that goes.
Oh, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Working on it.
So, David, can you flick the camera around just so we can see what Caitlin's doing? We can just see the side angle. Now, we've just been told that the Great British Bake Off has been on the exact same time that the first episode has been on tonight. So you've been on the same time as the Bake Off.
Well, I'm giving them a run for their money.
Yeah, exactly. That's what. Who wants to watch the Bake Off when we can watch you?
Exactly. I know, right? Exactly. So, if you're looking at the camera here, I've just continued playing as we've been chatting, and I've just added another piece there. I've got some toothpicks just to help hold it in place as it's drying, but you can see it's sort of just naturally coming together as I want it, essentially. Yeah. So just trying to hide.
And how long would you keep the cocktail sticks in? I think it just depends on the weather and how quickly it dries.
Yeah, it does depend on the weather a little bit. I find like the maximum time I would feel I need to keep it in there is like 24 hours. But I'd probably be like, what time is it now? It's in Australia, it's 20 to 7. So I'd probably look at taking it off in like an hour or so, maybe an hour and a half. But again, it does depend on the weather. If it's quite humid, then I'd do that I'd leave it longer.
Yeah.
But it's pretty dry at the moment, so everything's it's been pretty kind to us at this stage.
Brilliant. So David's just throwing me. So we've got also students watching, or viewers, sorry, not students, watching on our website. So we've got a question here from, is it Lydiel? So she's saying, morning from Sydney. I haven't been to bed waiting for Caitlin's demo. It's just she's been staying up to watch it, and she says she's absolutely loving it. Thanks for keeping me up, Caitlin. It's been so worth it. What a gorgeous cake and great tips. And she's came back. She says she's just wondering, when using Crisco on the outside of the cake and the stenciling with the luster dust, after you've buffed it down, does the luster dust stay or does it fall off, or does it leave thin sections when moving the cake, etc.? If that makes sense. Yeah.
Great question. It does absolutely 100% make sense. So what I find is, and I'm sorry, my fingers are getting really black here from playing with this, but what I find is that the luster sticks to the fat, so you don't need to worry about any excess falling off. If you didn't use the fat, that's when the luster is going to fall off and you're not going to get that even design and you're not really going to see the pattern. It's actually not even worth doing. So that's what the fat does. The luster sticks to it. So you don't need to worry about it falling off. With Crisco, I find it can remain a little bit oily. So you do need to be really careful. When you're moving the cake, I'd only be picking it up from underneath. I wouldn't be picking it up from holding it on the sides and trying to move it, because your pattern will smudge. With my product, which is the molding fat, it doesn't remain oily. So even now I'm just touching it and I'm finding that I would be able to move this quite nicely. It's actually already started to, the oiliness is going. What that means is, because it's a luster and because it's dry, it is always going to smudge a little bit. If you're in there and you're trying to rub your fingers over it and stuff like that, the design is going to smudge. If I just sort of gently rub my finger over it like this, I'm going to get a little bit of luster on my finger, but I'm actually not going to smudge the pattern. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's cool.
But if I sit there and I rub it, that's when you're going to smudge the pattern. So you do need to be somewhat delicate with it, but not so much so that your pattern's going to be absolutely ruined at the touch of a finger.
Yeah.
Like I've smudged this one. The original design is now, we made it in May, and it has traveled to so many places, so many demonstrations. And, I've put my fingerprints up here multiple times. It really hasn't done anything to the pattern. There's like one spot where I'm like, yeah, I can see my thumb fingerprint in there, but the rest of it, so it's pretty good. And it's pretty resilient.
It's perfect. So what Caitlin's really saying is you've got to buy her product. It's just, you've just got to buy it, haven't you?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Crisco, well, I don't know.
So let's just see if we've got any more questions. Let's just have a look. So we've got Lynn Sullivan saying, Carol McFarlane from Sugar and Crumbs would this product for this sorry, let's just read that properly. Yeah, I think so. I think Lynn's saying that maybe Carol from Sugar and Crumbs might want to distribute your product to the UK. I think that's what it says. I think that's what she said. The sentence seems to be missing a few words, but yeah. So you never know. Fingers crossed.
Carol, I'll be in touch. It
was worth getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I knew there had to be some reason. I'm really honored to be here today. Thanks so much for inviting me, Paul. But also, I really like to share like my ideas and just decorating in general. So it's been a pleasure, and I really hope that there's, people get something out of this. That's really the main thing at the end of the day.
Oh no, it's been
And
it's
if
been.
hey, some product as well, then I won't be complaining.
And also, before I forget, also thanks to Mary Reid, because Mary was a bit of a matchmaker, wasn't she? So she was she brought us together for this as well. So thanks, Mary, for that.
Thanks, Mary. And good morning if you're up.
I don't think she's watching. She must be still sleeping.
She's yeah, she's up in Toowoomba as well, and the reception up there isn't as fabulous as here, so she'll have to watch it after the fact.
Yeah. So yeah, so I think we're going to wind up now. I'm getting a nod from the director to the side of me, but what we're going to suggest is what we'll do is if we can get a nice picture of the cake and some close-ups, then of course we can post that on the website so people can see some of the finer details, because some of the lighting's just a little bit on the bright side, so just so we can see the stencil work and the flower work on there as well.
Perfect, can do, absolutely.
Perfect. So
we'll get on to that. What happens today?
So if you can turn the cake around, Caitlin, so we can see the cake from the front. Yep. Yes, please. Wow.
We can get it. We can hold it closer if you'd like to the camera.
Yeah, bring it up. Bring it up. Let's see it. Yeah, let's do that.
Just trying to get out of that light.
Yeah, look at that. Absolutely stunning. Fantastic. Thanks very much, Caitlin. It's been a pleasure. It's been it just seems to came from nowhere. We were chatting in May, and then all of a sudden you're here. So it's been much awaited. It's been such a success. And isn't it crazy that technology, that we can be chatting away, and you're in Brisbane and I'm in Spain, and just amazing.
Yeah, I know. I was literally thinking of that. I was just like, it's cheaper than airfares, hey?
Definitely. But a big thanks from everyone here at Cateflix. It's been lovely having you on. You're such a superstar, and we wish you all the success, because your stuff's just so beautiful. And for anyone who's just asking, Caitlin's going to give us all the links for all the products that she used tonight. And of course, the big thing is she would really appreciate your support, and maybe just buy a couple of products from her. It would make her day. I'll do the sales bit for you.
I could just be my salesman.
So thanks very much, Caitlin. Thanks. Is it Annalise or Eloise?
Eloise.
Eloise, that's it. Sorry, I didn't know if it was the Australian accent, so I was sorry about that. So it's
That's all right. Even if you called it Eloise, we would have put it down to your accent, so it's all good.
I could have got away with that. Sorry. Anyway, it's been great fun having you. Sorry for getting you up so early in the morning, guys.
It's been a pleasure.
Okay, have a good day. See you later.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.